Here's a great example of a hard question that you really don't want to get wrong, because it's hard because it's intimidating, but it's not hard because the math is very tricky. So what we really need to do here is follow instructions, okay? We're being asked about this weird shape. It's got a cylinder. It's got these cones on it, right? A cylinder with internal measurements. Oh, and two circular cones. So what is the volume of the grain silo? Well, the number one instruction that we're going to need here is that if they ask for the volume of these shapes, we should flip back to the beginning of our section where it tells us the volume formulas for these two shapes, a cylinder and a cone. So yeah, if you memorize them, great, but you don't need to on the SAT. These things are given to us. So the volume of a cylinder, let's do that part first. That's pi r squared h, and that's the one that's more memorable. So, okay, what do we have? We have the volume is equal to pi. The radius they tell us is 5. The height they tell us is 10. So this is just some calculator work. So 5 squared is 25 times 10. And because of the answer choices not having pi, we're going to multiply by pi here. Normally on the SAT, pi is a symbol, and we're going to keep it as a symbol because the number is messy. And so we don't want to deal with like having this crazy decimal. But these choices tell us we need the crazy decimal. So let's make sure we don't forget that. And so the volume of the cylinder is 785.4. And sure enough, look, that's an answer. Because they know that some of you are just going to find the volume of the cylinder and just be like, ah, good, it's an answer, I'm done. But that's just one part of this. There's two more pieces. There's the two cones that we have to not forget about. So the volume of a cone, let's see, is 1/3 pi r squared h. So very similar to the cylinder. 1/3 pi r squared h. In this case, the 1/3 pi stays. The radius is still 5. And the height, you can see, is also 5. So I'm going to do, let's do 1/3 times pi times 25 times another 5. And that gets me 130.9. So I'm going to add that to the 785.4. So 785.4 plus 130.9 is 916.3. So choice C. Except no, I'm lying, because that's another trap. Because that's just one cone, and there's two cones. See, 1, 2. But notice what they're doing. See how easy it is to make those mistakes? You have to think this way. If you're not thinking about this kind of stuff when you're taking the SAT, they're going to trick you again and again and again, and you're going to lose points on stuff where you actually know what you're doing. You're just a little too quick to the trigger. So you got to be careful, but this is really easy. There's two cones. We don't need to use the formula again. We just need to add in another cone. So here's my second cone is 130.9, and we can kind of see where this is headed, but 916.3 plus 130.9 is 1047.2, which is choice D, which is the actual answer. Really great question. Really good question. It's in the hard section, so it's intimidating. We are probably crunched for time here, but we are given the formulas. So there's no excuse there about memorization. We are told exactly what we have. Two cones and a cylinder. It's in the instructions. But the SAT is definitely going to try to trick us along the way. Even though the steps are pretty simple, they're also pretty easy to mess up. And so you have to be aware of that and thinking about that and really just showing your work and doing everything you can to prevent those kinds of mistakes, because they are a killer. And if you're making them, you're losing points for no good reason.